So we are talking wide receiver. I'm your boy Sean Spencer, my guy Alex Loosemore, and we are trying to bring you guys into who's going to get drafted, who's going to get picked up. We talked about our top five and who's right outside our top five. Now, let's look into the sleepers. Let's look into the guys that might not get all of the attention, or just might be in the shadow of the top 10 guys. I mean, let's be honest. You can go through this list, and I love this because this is a list of guys that we've been watching for 3-4 years come up. So some of these guys, a couple years ago, we talked about Jordan Addison, Blitnikoff, top of the line, but then their last year might not have been what it was. I can think personally out of Virginia, I think this guy named Contavious Thompson?
Yeah, I believe so.
And Tavian Thompson out of Virginia balled out 2 years ago. I mean, over 100, over 1,000 receiving yards. Over 70, 80 catches, like double-digit touchdowns. Was just a monster. Then they got a new coach last year. Their quarterback just didn't pan out for him, and so it was a struggle. But you're still getting a guy that's got the ability, he's got the size, and this guy can play. But again, he's just not, because of the production and maybe what happened this past year, he just didn't get the looks, he didn't get the love. But you would not go wrong by potentially putting him in there, putting him in the slot, or putting him later in there to figure out who are some of your sleeper wide receivers that maybe we hadn't heard about, or maybe just kind of fell off in the last couple of years.
So for me, a lot of these guys, at least in my opinion, are big names, but it's just the fact that this receiver class is so good. These guys are probably at earliest third round, but most of them are probably day 3 in that 4 through 7 rounds. And you're going to get difference makers in these 5 guys. I said him earlier, I got to shout out my guy, Ronnie Bell. Whether it's a returner, slot guy, he reminds me so much of Golden Tate, and just that physicality he plays with and that drive that somebody is going to get a late round difference maker here. He's going to want it more than the next guy. Stand out at Penn State, Parker Washington. This guy's a dog. It's just another guy that, again, is probably going to want it more than the guy playing across from him. And will do anything in his power to get the ball and get those yards. Guy that might sneak into the third round here, Bryce Ford Wheaton out of West Virginia.
Yes.
Very solid player, big body. Can be an absolute difference maker on the outside. Another Big Ten guy, Rakeem Jarrett from Maryland. Just physical specimen. Another big time difference maker if you get him in the right situation. And a guy that his name's definitely been said over the past few years, but he gets overshadowed by his teammates from the 2021 season in Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. It's Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. And my big thing for him, and I guess Bell as well, they're difference makers blocking on the outside. They are nasty run blockers, and I love seeing that from a wide receiver. But he's got the ability to get the ball all over the field, too. I love what Xavier Hutchinson brings to the table, and he's going to be a day 3 pick and going to be an absolute steal. He's a guy I'm going to look for in dynasty leagues. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I love that. I absolutely love that. And we all look at Purdy's success last year, and we're like, oh, man, where'd this guy come from? But if you've been watching, if you've watched Iowa State teams, especially 2 years ago, Purdy had weapons all around. We know what Breece Hall did, like you mentioned, and Xavier Hutchinson 100% on the same board. I love that. I was telling Will about that guy. The guy can ball. He has the size, and he might not have had the best year. Obviously, the quarterback switch, but he's gonna succeed wherever he goes. And then they have the guy that Baltimore picked up at tight end, Charlie Kohler, who bodied guy that ran up the middle, definitely distanced himself from the linebackers, and was able to catch over the safeties. I mean, he had talent on that team, so I'm 100% with you. Love Rakeem Jarrett, yes, Maryland guy. Our guy Will loves him. got to shout out a guy I shouted out on Wednesday. 5'11", 187. I know this is kind of hurts your heart. Jalen Reed, but the guy's a baller.
I was gonna say him, but I left him specifically for you. That dude's a baller.
He is, man. And like I mentioned on the other show, going to that Wisconsin game and seeing him up close and person. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're from where we were sitting on the stands, you ain't gonna see him unless you're looking on the jumbotron. He's small. Yeah. He's a shrimp out there, but in that he's lightning. I mean, he sat there and he had a couple returns in the game. I believe he had a touchdown, number of catches where he's just in a game that was very close knit. Like you mentioned, went to overtime. He was one of those deciding factors. He was the difference in that game. And I think he's going to be one kind of like Zay Flowers and Josh Downs that you can put in the slot, but you're also going to put him at kick return. You're also going to put him and some other positions, getting gimmick plays. Get him he's an athlete. Get the guy the ball, and he's a fiery competitor. I mean, you can't, you look at the size and know what kind of dog you have. And I mean, this guy is a fierce competitor, and I love that. Jonathan Mingo. I mean, anytime you got a 6'2", 220 guy that can run a 4.40, I'm gonna need that in my life. One of the guys I was talking about earlier, those Virginia wide receivers, Dontavion Wicks at 6'1", 206. These guys, it's the size, it's the size and the ability. I mean, with Wicks, he has elite balance. He can tightrope down the sidelines, and he comes in and out of his breaks with explosion. And the burst is great, but that stop on a dime. You know what I mean? Where he can sit there, come out of his break, stop. Right. And that's something that I really think is going to benefit him in the next level. Here's a guy that dropped. He dropped obviously because of an injury. But before he dropped, before he got hurt, I'm sitting here thinking this guy might be one of the best wide receivers in the nation. Out of Maryland, Dante Demas Jr. Had a nasty knee injury. But before, I mean, the size, the hands, 6'3", 212, still runs a 4.5 40. And I mean, he was a pro style X-type wide receiver, big, he's tall. I mean, you could just see him like when he was catching or come back on like a hitch. It was almost like one of those big body guys in the paint in basketball. He's boxing out the guy behind him. So he's catching the ball, and it's either I'm catching it or nobody's. You're not going to come behind him and swipe him down because he has the strength to keep that thing. So I love that. The injury obviously, put him down a little bit, but he's going to be all right, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, hopefully the rehab and everything has gone well, but he's definitely going to get it. And then you got a couple guys. Antoine Green, I want to talk about. 6'2", 199. He's got 4.4 speed. He's not going to sit here and burn you straight line right down the field. Okay.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think he does, and he did great this past year, is he finds holes. He finds the open seams. He finds holes in the zone. He can come out there and route and just be on the same page with the quarterback where he can just sit there. He can get open to a spot, sit there, and make himself available. And when he gets there, those hands. He has extremely strong hands to where, like I said about Dante Demas, you're not coming and swiping it down and the ball's just popping out. He's sitting here holding on to that. And very underrated out of North Carolina because of Downs, obviously. And then Drake May got so much love. But I really feel like he's going to definitely be beneficial to some team out there. And I think there's a number of guys, but I think off top, those are the guys, in my opinion, that if I'm looking at, like you said, they might not be as well known, but on our books, they're a lot higher than maybe they might be on the depth chart or the top 100 wide receivers or whatever. You know what I mean?
And think about this. We're saying there's still guys that we're missing. We've named about 20 guys today.
Right.
This wide receiver class is insane this year for that reason alone.
Yes.
You're going to get undrafted guys that are going to make 53-man rosters and succeed.
Yeah.
Like, this class is ridiculous this year.
And I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where these guys play, like where these guys get picked up. But I just want to see how they are able to mesh in the offense. I look at the guys like I mentioned out in North Carolina with Antoine Green and Josh Downs. You look at Josh Downs a couple years back when you had the studs and De'Ami Browns and the Daz Newsomes and all those talent, all those guys. He was in the back burner. Like, I mean, we had so much talent that he wasn't the guy. But once those guys left, you start to see him come to fruition to the point where last year he's elite, or he's playing at least at elite level. And then you got an Antoine Green who just essentially took the role of Josh Downs as the Mr. Nobody. But when Josh Downs got triple covered, you have Green going down the field. And a lot of times people might overlook that because it's not, like you said, they're not the top guy, but it's contribution to a team. You know what I mean?
That's Ronnie Bell to a T. Like, yes. Everyone was looking at Roman Wilson, AJ Henning, all these guys because they were the flashy down the field guys. But what you don't realize is Ronnie Bell, and I didn't realize this until later in the season when I looked at the numbers too. Ronnie Bell ran away with the lead receiver. Yep. He was the top in receptions and yards, but he did it the right way. He was that 10 to 15 yard guy. When you needed that third down conversion, he was your guy. Like, he just sneaky solid. And just, if you put his numbers, it stacks up against the top guys in the nation last year.
Oh, yeah. And outside of numbers, one of the things that really impresses me, especially about a wide receiver, is when you're in a game that means something, and, things might not have gone your way early. And I know it's a bad memory, but I'm going to go to the TCU game. You guys go down 14-0 early, and, it was looking rough. Bell was one of those that stepped up and really took over the game. And that's one of those where I remember I don't know if I texted you this or not, but I remember I was sitting there like, Ronnie Bell.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? Oh, okay. All right, right. Okay.
He was a guy that was getting like second, third round consideration in last year's draft with those receivers.
Yeah.
And then week 1 tore his ACL. He was done for the season.
Yeah.
So then it was just like, we all just assumed, okay, this is the last we've seen of him. He's going to the NFL. He's going pro. And then kind of right at that deadline, we hadn't heard. And it's just like, what's going on? He's like, no, I'm coming back. And it was just like, oh, damn, okay. Like,
right?
Yeah. And then it seemed like he got lost in the shuffle, but it was just like 5 yards here, 10, 15, 10 here, like just solid chunk gains. And led the team in receiving this year.
Yeah. And that's what I like. Those are the receivers I love. Obviously, my guy in Washington is Terry McLaurin, who until this year was very quiet, but the production spoke for itself. That's what I like about the Ronnie Bells. He's not as flashy, or at least to me, from what I've seen, he's not. He's just, let's get the job done. It's about the next
your
play,
leader.
the next play. And I love that. So he's definitely going to help a team.